Friday morning, can't control it. Fired up and counting every minute. Hands are shaking, eyes are burning. The time has come, yeah, this is not a warning. The week was just so long, we had to let it go. Our problems disappeared, we're not tied up anymore. The weekend is here. Sunday calls, we are sick and tired. Up and down, can you feel it?
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Kurt Johansson Show. It's Kurt, and today got a very exciting guest. As you can see, he is the UEWA European Cruiserweight Champion. It's Nitro Green. Nitro, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited. From what I've seen from like my research and also from like mutual friend and Looking Sharp setting this up. So thank you for that. Yeah, really excited to speak to one of the names in Denmark to try and highlight just how great the Denmark scene is.
Well, that's a great compliment. And once again, Looking Sharp is someone I definitely considered a close friend of mine. Let's see what happens in the future. But yeah, once again, thanks for making this happen. And once again, let's hopefully get some more eyes on the Danish scene.
Yeah, definitely. So just to start it all off, like, why wrestling? Like, and when you was trying to get into wrestling, what was the Danish scene like?
Well, it's so funny because I kind of stumbled onto wrestling by an accident. I think I must have been around 15 years of age. And a good friend of mine, he's like, "Oh, dude, you got to see this. This is the best thing ever." And he showed me a YouTube clip of Rey Mysterio wrestling John Cena back when John Cena was the doctor of thugonomics. And
Yeah.
I remember it as crystal clear. Rey had this completely red outfit on. And just to see the height difference between John Cena and Rey Mysterio and all these amazing flips and maneuvers they could do, I was just hooked from that clip. I was hooked right away. And then shortly after, there was the wrestling camp coming up in Denmark from the Danish Pro Wrestling. And I tried that. And I was hooked as soon as I got into the ring. Unfortunately, I didn't really have my parents' support on it. So it took a while to convince them that I could do it. But the wrestling scene was still very small back then.
Yeah.
But growing. Unfortunately, here in the past couple of years, I think it's taken a minor setback. So now we're trying to rebuild that.
Yeah. So how old was you when you went to one of the camps with Dansk Pro Wrestling?
I went to the first camp when I believe I must have been 16 or 17.
And what was your parents? So you mentioned your parents didn't really give you the blessing.
No, I come from a family where my mom passed away when I was 3 years old, and my brother is born with a brain damage. So I was kind of like the child who was packed in bubble wrap and needed to get a proper education and a degree. And then on top of that, my father had watched very old school ICW clips. So to him, wrestling was barbed wire, power bombs on floors, and then I took a suplex, landed on my tailbone, and I couldn't sit properly. So coming home, I just empowered the worst fear in my father. So he was like, no, as long as you live in this house, wrestling is forbidden, which is why we came up with the Nitro Green character, because I was fully covered. And then I basically lied to my parents saying that I'm going as a referee, and I no wrestling. Bruises come, more bookings started to appear. It became harder and harder, and I dragged more and more people into this long circle of lies. So I just had to come clean eventually. And now they know about it, and I think they're proud of what I have accomplished with it. So far, they've never seen a match, and I doubt they ever will. But hopefully, one day they will come and see, and at least try to understand why I am so hooked on this wrestling thing, because it's more than just throwing people around and doing this violent maneuvers. There's more to it, and that's what I want people to see and understand.
Yeah, I just found it like so funny, the fact that the whole mask and stuff is just like, how can I hide it from my parents? Like,
mate, it was the weirdest thing. Like, my brother did all my laundry for all the wrestling stuff. All my gear I sent to my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And like but once again, my cousin wrestles. I had mutual friends who knew it.
Yeah.
And like you see, since my brother was in on it, my cousin was in on it, which means his parent was in on it. There were so many in the family, so close to my parents, who was in on it. And when I came clean about it, and I started telling my stepmom, because I was like, okay, if maybe she'll ease into it. And no, and then my parents, they knew it. As soon as I told them, they were like, we already knew. We're not mad. We're just disappointed. Who made it even more worse?
Oh no, not that. I'm
No,
not mad. I'm just disappointed in you.
so that was the worst. And I was like, then just be mad, rather be mad. But it was my own mess, and I came clean about it, and now we're good.
Yeah. How long had you been wrestling without them, like, without thinking they know?
I think we did a good solid year. I started, and then I had 6 months, and then I moved to the US. So I was like, okay, if I can make it through these 6 months without them knowing, I'll be fine. I'll tell them when I go to the US. And then within a couple months wrestling in Denmark, I got asked to do a booking in Finland. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't tell my parents that I'm at my girlfriend for a week and then go to Finland. So I think a good 4 to 5 months, then I had to come clean.
Yeah. So what was your experiences like in America?
Well, I was very young at the time. I just finished what will probably be considered high school.
Yeah.
So I took a year abroad and studied an undecided major. And I was like, okay, I'm now 18.
Yeah.
I've always been told, like, if you can learn more different styles, you should. So I looked up schools I was living in Wisconsin at the time.
Yeah.
And I found a promotion called Brew City Wrestling, who's run by Frankie DeFalco, who actually worked for WWF
Yeah.
back in the days. And I came in, and I got my ass beat because I was very stiff. I was very European, and because
Yeah.
that was all I knew. And I've been trained by Chaos, who's like very hard hitting brawler. So the first 4 to 5 months, I really got my ass whooped because they put me in with guys who were like, if you don't ease up, we don't either. So and for 18-year-old, 4,000 miles away from home, that was very scary, but definitely something that to this day I take as a very big learning experience.
Yeah. How long was you in America for?
I lived there for 14 months, and then I came back to Denmark, and then I've been there a couple times since,
Yeah.
both for wrestling and also I had a host family who I stayed in touch with and became very close with.
Oh, brilliant. So, in those 14 months you was away, did
Yeah.
the Danish wrestling scene change that much when you came back?
The biggest change I think who actually came was another promotion appeared, the Bodyslam Pro Wrestling promotion, and that hurted the business in Denmark more than it benefited from it, because instead of we had one big group who worked on this, you had two groups who kind of just worked against each other.
Yeah.
So I think that hurted it. It became the DPW, like the Dansk Pro Wrestling had, like the owner definitely had some pride issues with it.
Yeah.
So when Bodyslam had shows, he just make money or lose money, he didn't care. He ran a show on the same date. And then there's only an X amount of wrestlers in Denmark.
Yeah.
So now you had to, where do you want to work for the most? But I think that really was the biggest issue with it. And then the internet, there was so many bad talking on the internet from wrestlers to wrestlers and promotion about promotions, and then at the end people just like, if this is what we're coming into, we don't even want to support it.
Yeah. How long was that going on for?
I think for a good couple of years. There's the good saying, time heals all wounds. Like, it just needed to step away from it. And then, wrestlers got hurt, and the promotions kind of had to reach out to one another and say, can we borrow one of you guys's? And then that was kind of like, I believe I was the first proper DPW guy who got invited into the Bodyslam promotion. And then I think from that, it just became like, oh, well, hopefully, or maybe in the future, we can work together and do what we all actually want to do is just to make wrestling big in Denmark.
Yeah. Have you seen it grow since then? So since you went across and started kind of being a little bit more friendly?
I think so. In Denmark, it's kind of like, you know, you don't really know what you get. You can go out and you can perform in front of 10 people, or you can go out and perform in front of 300.
Yeah.
So once again, I can only give my praises to the Bodyslam promotion. They're really good at marketing and draw people in, and they still do. And they have had a couple shows here after the coronavirus and everything, taking in consideration of how many people they can fill into a building now. I think they do a tremendous job. So I think within a couple years, and CCW as well, like everything is growing.
So did CCW come after Bodyslam?
CCW came after Bodyslam, I believe. Yeah.
So what was the impact on the scene when this third promotion came in?
Well, CCW has been very smart. They have stayed in Copenhagen, and then don't really go outside of their. They have done a festival or two outside of Copenhagen, but besides that, they stay in Copenhagen, where DPW is and Bodyslam is based in Jutland, who's a different part of Denmark, and everything is just you can do more in bigger cities, and you have the capital in Copenhagen, 1 million people live there, and I'm always fascinated about when I go there. Like we have in where I live, like they sit on their hands and they look at you like when you do, and me having my face paint and I'm crawling and I'm doing my spit, they look at me like, well, you better entertain us now. Where in Copenhagen, I come out to be like, this is cool. He's different. So like just the culture of it is different. So I think CCW is definitely taking advantage of that, having so many different personas and characters, which once again, Lou, the blood terrorist, definitely fits into that mold.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned earlier, like the Danish wrestling scene took a couple of steps back. Do you think it's on the right trajectory? Is it going the right direction?
Once again, you know, sometimes I think like within a year this is going to be amazing, and then the day after, I think in a year Danish wrestling is going to be dead. Because like we do a show, no one shows, and we're like, well, the show must go on, so we do our best to put a good show on, and we come back and it's like this was just not good at all. I recently had a show like that when I was like, this is just bad, but still, when we look at the reviews we get online, everyone is thrilled what we just put on.
Yeah.
So hopefully, with the combination of Bodyslam doing the amazing promo work online as well as CCW, people will come, give it a chance, and then from my understanding, you know, probably the same with you when you started, when you saw the first live show, you got hooked. I think that's what we need. We need people to get over the fact that it's predetermined. It's not fake. It's kind of like a movie. So come, enjoy it for what it is, and then hopefully get hooked on the feeling and experience of it.
Yeah. So going back to like when you first started, then what was your debut match like? How did you find it?
I was a nervous wreck. I remember I was in Copenhagen and I met the DPW light heavyweight champ at the time, who was a good friend of mine. And I was so mechanic. Like I watched it back, and like I remember we forgot a spot, and I couldn't move past that. I was like, no, we got to go back because I don't remember where we go after this. And so once again, I was young, and I was like, I've heard these stories about adrenaline. When that kicks in, you won't feel a thing.
Yeah.
But I was so nervous that I didn't feel the adrenaline. I just felt every bump, and that's tremendously. So the first, I don't know, 10 matches was not fun. But.
Yeah. What was your experience like in Finland? So you mentioned like quite early on you've got a booking in Finland. Like what was that like?
I never got. I had to turn the booking down because once again I lived with my parents and they said no. So but all the international bookings started coming after I've been to the States and I came home from that.
Yeah.
So that's when I picked up.
Yeah. What countries have you been wrestling in?
I've been wrestling. Once again, I was lucky. I wrestled in Denmark, and then I went to US, and I had a couple matches there. And then I came home, and quickly after that, Sweden and Germany opened up, and then I got in contact with Lou, who opened up Scotland and England for me. And then after that, it's just been mouth to mouth. So I've gone back to the States a couple times. I've been to Israel and Morocco. And then once again, mouth to mouth, I met Tom Fulton, who is a Scotsman, I believe, who runs his own promotion in Romania. So I went to Romania, and then I had a booking set up for when I went to Vietnam. Unfortunately, that fell through. So I'm still like, I really want to go to Asia. That's my next big goal. But then once again, I had Norway, I had Finland coming in, but then the Corona hit, so that kind of fell through, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Israel and Morocco, that's very interesting. I don't think I've spoken to anybody that's been in those countries wrestling. What was that like for you? What was the culture like and the wrestling?
Great experience. Like I've traveled with a friend of with Chaos, who I think the bookers in both in Israel and Morocco is Maran. He runs AWO, and the culture was good. Like, it was fun trying it, but the wrestling aspect was very different because it felt very out here, very backyardish. Because we came, and when we came, Kim and I, we came rolling with our suitcases, and people, like, the wrestlers came in and they had already changed to their gimmicks. So like they were very into it and very excited about we were doing this wrestling thing, and we were in a back seat of in a backyard of a wellness club. And I remember I was doing a triple threat in Israel, and it was very because I at the time I've had, if I say, 60 or 70 matches, so I was still very new. But at the same time, the guys I wrestled have only wrestled 2 or 3 different opponents in multiple different matches, so they had less experience than I had. So and then we wrestled in front of 25 people in Israel, and one of those where you take the experience of it and the travel, and just I got to see Israel, which was something I never thought I would.
Yeah.
The wrestling thing, the wrestling match and the show wasn't that fun of a experience, but the overall trip of it, I definitely something I look fond back on.
What about Morocco?
Morocco was also different because we came there and it was the Israel promotion who ran a show in Morocco.
Okay.
And they were supposed to do the show on Sunday, and we came in Saturday or maybe Friday. And I remember I traveled with Chaos again. We come in and they have this big, I think 10 people stand in the airport and meet us. And we come and they take us to this van. And I look inside of the windows, like there's 3 seats there. It's like, oh, it's great. We just jump in the back. Like, no. You're asking me to get into a van, driving in a country I've never been to. I know 2 of you guys here. And then I sat in the van for what would be like 3 hours in the back, like no windows, just on these Moroccan roads, which like all the way to where we were going. And I was like, I'm going to get kidnapped. And the first thing Chaos and I heard when we came out was like a gunshot. And they were like, oh yeah, we're right in the middle of Fes and there's a gang war. And so you just have to quickly go up there and then everything will be fine. And we were like, okay. And then Sunday came on and we had to do the show. And unfortunately, something about Israeli and Moroccans didn't really, I don't know if the communication or whatever went wrong, but the venue that they were supposed to be in, they lost it. They couldn't run it. And we sat there. I was like, okay, so what are you guys going to do? We're like, oh, well, no problem. We'll just do it Monday. We got a different venue. I was like, so how are you going to promote this? Oh, it's fine. We'll make it work. Make it work. And like, this is not going to work. And then Monday came and they had this venue who was like this huge hall with the acoustics. Like if you took a bump, you could hear like, I was like, they played my theme song and I couldn't hear it. It was mine. It was not until like someone continue like, oh, this is you got to go. I was like, oh no. I did my match, and then Kim was doing it afterwards, and the ring started to fall apart, and he once again, a great experience, but just I think it's just the Middle Eastern people are so much more laid back on it. They were like, we make it if we make it. I was supposed to do a seminar, and we started at 3. No one was there at 3 o'clock. They just come like stumbling in around 4, and I was like, this, no.
Wow.
So great, but a different experience, that's for sure.
Well, how was Romania? Hopefully a better experience.
Romania was great. I love Tom Fulton to death. Like, he's really, really good, and he treated me very well. I messed up my first booking with him because I cleared on a date who I unfortunately collided with something else here in Denmark. So I made it like a personal thing for me that I really wanted to go back there.
Yeah.
And I came back, and I did a double booking for him in Romania. And once again, scene is very small there, but just the way that the people and the audience took to me, it was like, I think he told me that he sold out, which he normally don't do. He has a very small venue, but he really works it well with the lighting and everything. So that was just a great experience, and Tom took really good care of me, and I had 2 very fun matches of it. And once again, Tom is the trainer at the school he runs in Romania, and he's very old school in his training, so he doesn't do all these fancy flips. So for me, coming in and doing a lot of high flying quickly takes the audience to, oh, this is new, we want to see this. So Romania was great, really great.
Oh wow. I want to talk about one of your matches in particular with, I think it was like 2016 against Matt Sydal.
Yeah.
So how was that? Like, you've just explained like you're this high flyer and stuff like that, and then around 2016, Matt Sydal is one of the most exciting high flyers there is. What was that match like, and what was your mindset going into it?
The match was it was good. It was good. Matt Sydal was great to work with. I think this was the first time I worked with like a very big name.
Yeah.
So I was very starstruck. And I've been on the same tour as he had. So we did Malmö on Friday, we did Gothenburg on Saturday, and we did Copenhagen Sunday. And I watched him Friday and Saturday, and he went over on those 2 guys. And then I don't think he knew he was supposed to lose to me.
Okay.
So when we quickly talked about the match, and he told me, yeah, well, the finish will just be as yesterday. I'll go over on the shooting star. And I knew I was supposed to go over. Unfortunately, the promoter hadn't told him that he was losing. So I sat and I was like, well. So, but all that worked out, and yeah, I think once again I didn't really have the confidence, because like one of the things he told me, he chopped me. I remember this very clear. And then he came back. He said, turn it. So I turned and I chopped. And then instead of staying on him like you would have done if you had the confidence, be like, right now you might be Matt Sydal, but right now you're just wrestling me, and we're in this ring together. I backed away, and I was like, oh shit, this is, who am I actually wrestling?
Yeah.
So that was, once again, I take every match I have as a learning experience and trying always to get better. And I got some great feedback from him afterwards, something that I can still use. And then it was one of those things, like, it was not a fun day wrestling when you were in it.
Yeah.
I think if I do it now, I would enjoy it much more, but I took it for a learning experience.
Yeah. So what's, obviously during your time with DPW, currently like one of the bookers, but you started off, you ended up becoming tag team champions twice, and then it was a couple of years after you've had that Matt Sydal match, you become DPW heavyweight champion. So how did it feel, the fact that like here you are 2018 and you finally become the guy in DPW?
Well, that was big. Like, that was great for me because I wasn't a booker at the time, so that was decided outside, like beside of me. It's it was different because like I'm very old school in that opinion. Like when you have when you're the guy, as you say, it's on you to fill the venues. It's on you that the shows are good and you're the main event. So if everything is not delivering until that match, it's your job to go out and save it. So it was an enormous amount of pressure to put on yourself when once again you're still fairly young.
Yeah.
But I met some great guys when I had the DPW title. Shortly after I became a part of the booking team, so that helped it, of course, for my aspect of it. I could find guys who I could work with who could match what I could bring to the table.
Yeah, and speaking of which, though, a couple of those guys, you had Krieger and Burns John Klinger. What was those two matches in particular like?
Krieger is one of the best guys I've ever worked with, hands down. I met him when I did the All-Star camps, and I remember we had a match, him and I, at the All-Star, where we were running very late for the show, so we had no time to plan, and we just went out there and we did it.
Yeah.
So from that, I had very big confidence in, and I told the booking team, if you guys are bringing in Kid Fight and looking sharp, bring in Krieger as well, and I'll have him. We can definitely do a fun match. And we had a very fun match. Something that I still remember and am very proud of. Bad Bones he's a different breed, man. He's tough. And I got my ass kicked in that match. It was fun. He was easy to work with. But it's just like I don't know if you're familiar with Harley Rage from Sweden.
Not too familiar.
No, like it's just he's a big, strong guy, and it's just like Edge always said, like when he wrestled Batista, he had a moveset it's gonna hurt. Yeah. It's kind of the same here. Like when he does those things, like fuck. But if it gets the reaction that you're hoping for, it's worth it. So that was a fun match. Bad Bone, I don't know why. Bad Bones is very popular in the south of Germany. Never really made it big here in the northern and Denmark. So unfortunately, not many people. Like we booked ourselves into a bad situation when we had Bad Bones coming up, so people knew I was gonna win.
Okay.
So that was bad booking on our side of it, and put Bad Bones and myself in a very, very poorly situation for the outcome of the match. So
yeah. So as booker now, does that make it harder for yourself? Because obviously you don't want to constantly put in on the same match against the same people. Sometimes you want to bring in the outsiders, which again we'll get to the next person in particular shortly. But does that make it harder for you to make sure, right, who can I bring in that people are going to enjoy seeing, but also believe they may have a chance of winning?
I think so, yeah, and definitely even more so now with the European title. Yeah. Because it, for instance, like once I've said it's been mostly one and done, and then when you do that, it's just going to be like, okay, well, it's just another one in the line of who is going to go over. And it was the same with the DPW title. Like we booked in, my tag team partner got fired. And then they made a stipulation where, like, if I win 5 matches of the owner's choice, like, he would get reinstated. And Bad Bones was number 4, right before number 5. And everyone know if you do this, you go to number 5. Yeah. And then either you win or you lose. And that's the same here. That's why I'm very looking forward to, like, I want to have a proper program where we can do some back and forth. We can do maybe something that will surprise a lot of people, and that's something that I'm definitely think we can do.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like European title then, a match that you will have coming up, I believe, was November time, is it?
Yeah, November 7th.
Yeah. Against Looking Sharp, the person that actually beat you for the Dansk Pro Heavyweight Championship. So how are you feeling? Like, is taking one title from you and you're going to be going into this match? Like, what's your thoughts on Looking Sharp, your experience in that match where you'd lost the title, and what's your thoughts on the upcoming match?
Well, I'm sure he hasn't mentioned it, but I'm no no afraid of doing it. Lou had a Money in the Bank briefcase, so he did a cash in on me. And that was actually right after the Bad Bones match. That wasn't necessarily a match, but once again, it just goes to Lou and mostly the UK scene. You guys are so smart in the business. He knew right away that there was an opportunity, and he took advantage of it, full advantage of it. So I have no heart, and I knew I would have done the same thing. So I have no resentment towards him for that. I just know that now I'm coming in fresh. I'm coming in with a lot of confidence. I'm sure he has the same, but this is, once again, he claims that he's the king of Scandinavia, but this is still my home country, and he has to go through hell and back if he wants to leave Copenhagen with the title.
So you mentioned, again, the European Championship then. I find it really fascinating, and like you said, a lot of it's one and done. Hopefully they can change that going forward, and it seems like that's something you're wanting to do yourself. With the Union of European Wrestling Alliances, I think they do have, Lou mentioned it a bit in our chat, but again, I want you to get into it. What's your thoughts on that alliance, and how do you think that could help build the wrestling scene in Scandinavia?
Well, there's so many unwritten rules when you're part of this, and one of the rules are that each promotion who's a part of it has to book the champ once a year. But once again, there's finances and everything who makes it harder. I reached out to every promotion who is a part of the alliance when I became champ and said, this is me now and I'm ready to go. Just if you have any dates, feel free to let me know. But I can see why, there's a promotion in Italy who's a part of the alliance called ICW as well. Why would they take a chance on a kid from Denmark? They don't know. I can see as a promoter gets many texts from different wrestlers who want to work. So why am I different? Even though I say I'm the champ from the alliance they're part of, when they see the messages, it's just well, he needs work, he wants work. No, I have my guys, I don't need them. So I think that's been the biggest issue. You need to get a chance to come in and prove I bring something to the table. And without sounding cocky or anything, every place I have gone and I've had a chance, they've asked me to come back. So I definitely take that as a feather in my cap, saying that I'm not just full of smoke. But that's also been hard because there's promotions in England who's a part of the alliance too, but they have so many wrestlers. There's so many guys in the UK. Why should I bring you in? So
I think it'd be really good to see if the championships and the schedules of the champions governed a little bit more by the Union, the alliance, because it'd be really cool to see the belts mean something and be built up. So that's why they'd bring you in, because they want that belt and you're the guy holding that belt, so they want you on that show. And it'd be really cool just to see that get built up, and to see it gives people something to strive for. And if whoever's holding that's traveling to 6, 7, 8 different countries, then obviously surely that's only going to help raise the different wrestling scenes around Europe.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like you said with the NWA, and if you look back to when Ric Flair was the world champ, he could he wrestled all over 60-minute matches every night, and he was in different states, different country, different continents. He took that belt everywhere, and I'm not saying it should go back to that, but it would if you could be a European champion and you would go to all these different countries in Europe, and then of course eventually you would drop it somewhere, but it would just it should be an attraction in itself that the European title is coming here. And now if you wrestle in Oslo or you wrestle in London or wherever you go, one of their hometown heroes should meet the guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And hopefully that can be something that can happen off the back of yourself and looking sharp. Hopefully that'll build up the championship a lot more.
Well, once again, like when I beat Lou in my home country, then hopefully he has guts enough to offer me a chance to come to Scotland and beat him there as well. So.
Fingers crossed. So with that being said, like going back to your reign as DPW heavyweight champion, like what other matches stood out for yourself? Because I know the match that you won the title with was title versus mask. You've had fans bring the weapons. You've had cage matches, and a lot of the rivalries with Chaos, who you've mentioned like throughout this interview. Mm-hmm. So what were your memories as champion when you look back at it?
Like as my favorite matches as a champ,
yeah.
Obviously the match, the ladder match, the TLC match with Chaos, where I won the title, sticks out because that was just brutal. A great match. I had a very good match with FVN, who retired and came back for a one and done with me.
Yeah.
So that was very fun. And then Mikael Schinkenberg, who is now the current DPW heavyweight champ. I've had numerous matches with him who sticks out as something I'm very proud of, because him and I have great chemistry. And, we worked cage matches and we did normal matches, and we just always find a way to make it work. Yeah. So I think if I should take one guy who I look back at from that run, it would probably be Mikael Schinkenberg.
Oh, brilliant. And what about your time as the European champion? So I know you've had people like Alexander James, Endakara, Tarkan Aslan.
Well, I had an amazing, definitely one of my favorite matches with Endakara in Copenhagen. So but that's once again, like, he's a fast, smaller guy. Yeah. So that fits very well into my style. I've had great matches in Kiel with Takan, as you said. That was fun as well. I think, however, if I should mention like a guy who sticks out to me from the European title run, must have been against Carlos Zamora, and another CCW guy.
Yeah.
Very new to the Danish scene, but just an amazing, talented guy. Not someone that I like personally. We don't have good chemistry in the back, but in the ring, I don't know what it is. But when we're in there, it just fits.
Oh no, brilliant. So what would people expect if they was checking out like Dansk Pro Wrestling, or checking yourself out on CCW or Bodyslam?
I think, like, once again, like, you have to CCW and Bodyslam and Dansk Pro Wrestling. They all three delivers completely different products.
Yeah.
Where CCW is a little more, it's a little more hardcore. It's a little more, if you take ECW back in Philly, it's a little more raw. It's a little more hard hitting. You have different characters. Well, Bodyslam it's really good entertainment. It has something who fits everything. You have the very good wrestlers, and you have the more entertaining guys, and you have everything in between.
Yeah.
Where Dansk Pro Wrestling is more just strictly wrestling.
Okay.
So I think what you can, of course, expect to see, I think I had someone here last time I was at a show, and it kind of it stuck with me. He was like, "This doesn't look like what I've seen from WWE," and then we had this awkward silence, and he was like, and he asked, "Why is that?" And then I was like, "Have you seen a WWE show live?" He was like, "No, I've seen it on TV." And that's the thing. Like, when you see it on TV, you have the perfect angles, you have the right sound, you have everything. And like, if you do a botch on TV, the camera goes like, and then they don't see it. And we don't have the same finance to make like a WWE Thunderdome.
Yeah.
So I think what you can expect is to see great wrestlers who pour their hearts out and leave everything in the ring. Whether you wrestle good guys or fairly new guys who still needs to learn their craft, you have guys who bust their ass in every three promotion.
Oh, brilliant. So I know the wrestling scene, like in Scandinavia, is slowly coming back with during the pandemic. So what can people expect of you in the future?
From the Danish wrestling scene, or
just from yourself?
For myself, what they can expect is definitely like I've taken this pandemic and tried to put some size on. I've gone up 6 kilos, which of course changes a little bit for me, but that's I want to go more outside of Denmark.
Yeah.
Once again, as I said earlier, I had bookings who fell through due to this, and I'm planning on going back to US in the summer. And then, I made it clear to everyone around me that my goal is to get, hopefully, it wounded my pride that Carlos Samoa got a WWE tryout before myself, and that I'm realistic saying that the WWE in who has the headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut, is not looking at Denmark as a place where they can make money, but I'm very aware that WWE UK wants people from all over Europe.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. I wanna prove that although Carlos has a better physique look than me, I can work on that, because that's just dedication and stick to whatever works for you, diet and training programs. But I want to prove that I am definitely one of the best wrestlers in, if not just Denmark, then Scandinavia, and that's something that I firmly believe in, and I have the passion, and I'm still young, so the WWE UK is definitely something that I am. It's a long shot, but I'm definitely aiming for it.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely, and hopefully, like NXT UK's just come back, so hopefully, I know they've been doing some like internal recruitment here in England, so hopefully they'll start venturing out and start looking at those things. As you said, they're looking at Denmark, Sweden, France, Germany, Italy, Spain. So hopefully, like, we need more masked wrestlers. So
And
like,
the thing is, they don't have anyone from Scandinavia yet.
no,
They have from Germany, and then they have Spain, but like, once again, now when you mentioned the mask gimmick, the thing is, you have to be WWE. They can teach everyone to do a hip toss and a suplex, but they don't invest in the character. They invest in the person.
yeah,
So I need to work on, and what all mask guys, I've heard this from numerous guys who had WWE tryouts. They're like, okay, we like you, and we like the gimmick, and we like, but who are you? Who are you underneath the mask? What are we investing in?
yeah,
And if you can't tell them more than just, I'm a cool guy who does funny flips, you're like, well, we can teach everyone that.
yeah,
So they need to know who's behind the mask, and so that's definitely something that I know a good. I wrestled the guy, I won't mention name, but he got taken, like, he had a tryout, and they numerous times asked him, but who are you underneath all of this?
yeah.
And he couldn't give a proper answer, and he's not there now. So I think that's definitely something I need to be aware of, like, who am I as a performer and as a human being?
Yeah, definitely. And again, like, best of luck to you with that. Like, hopefully, the Danish scene will start growing, like, post pandemic and things like that. So, where can people actually find like Dansk Pro Wrestling if they was wanting to watch it online, or if you was wanting to try and get that audience from further afield?
Well, like, the best thing I always recommend is check out on Facebook. All
Yeah.
promotions, the CCW is on Facebook, the Bodyslam is on Facebook, and Dansk Pro Wrestling is on Facebook. So look out there. That's where everything comes, all the news and every event who's going to be put on. We had a YouTube channel who's not that active at the current moment.
Yeah.
Bodyslam is very good at using their YouTube channel. So if you want to check out Dansk Wrestling, like, you should definitely look on that. And then, once again, if you are in Denmark and you see this, or just if you are curious about it, go check out wherever the local shows are, because like 9 out of 10 people, when they feel the atmosphere of a live wrestling show, they get hooked.
Yeah, definitely.
And once again, it happened for you, it happened for me. It like, someone just takes it to the extreme and put on a weird mask and funny tights and leather boots.
Nah, I agree, and I understand skepticism. Like, I've loved wrestling all my life, and it wasn't until maybe about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit, no, probably a little less, about 8 years ago, where I finally went to like my first independent show, and part of me was worried because I was like, this is going to be so different to, again, what I was used to seeing on TV. Am I going to like it? I get into the venue, I'm like, okay, yep, this is still very different. But as soon as go time, like I was hooked. I started looking more into British wrestling, and now I'm looking at Scandinavian wrestling, Southeast Asian wrestling,
Yeah,
Australian
definitely.
wrestling, and that's just because allow yourself to just get absorbed, just forget what you used to with WWE. I had the same conversation with Lou. Like, so many people complain about what they're seeing on WWE, or oh, this is rubbish, and they'll spend 3 hours watching it, 3 hours complaining. So instead of that, just try out all these different scenes like Danish wrestling or Swedish wrestling, to have a look at that, because it may take an hour and you may not like it, but
But
you
once again,
still
like
like 3 hours of Raw. So
and once again, like tickets are so cheap. Like like if you can find another place where you can get 2 hours of entertainment of high paced entertainment for that price, well then you should go to that because like you can't find it. And but I think the big issue in Denmark is it's such a niche where
yeah,
like in the UK and like it was the same. Like I remember so clearly one of the first shows I had in Milwaukee when I wrestled there the first time. I did my own gimmick and then I came out as I was a follower for a priest.
yeah,
So I was a monk who came with a Bible, and I was following the priest around the ring in his entrance, and I came to a there was an older lady sitting with, I believe, was her grandchildren, and she stood up, threw a beer at me while I was holding a Bible, and right in front of her grandchildren was screaming, "Burning hell, whatever." And then she, I think she said "motherfucker," and I was like, "You would never see this here."
yeah,
But once again, if she had seen wrestling for 20 plus years and was so accustomed to this right here is the bad guy, and she hated the guy that I was following.
yeah,
So like you get it like and the same with UK, you have it on the free television, right?
yeah.
Like we don't have it here. So
To some degree, WWE we don't. I think AEW and Impact we do.
so you have pretty easy access to it.
Yeah,
Where like in Denmark, like that's the most common thing I get. Like like for instance, like when you catch a dive or something, you know he's coming. Why don't you move? Like and like I always the analysis I always use is like if you watch your favorite movie and you know the hero is dying, well, you don't go away and be like, oh, well, he's dead now. He's gone forever. I'll never see him again. But you, in that moment when he died, you were like, no, what is going on here?
yeah,
Because you are giving yourself away to the movie. It's the same with a wrestling show. Give yourself the full experience of actually enjoy what you're seeing right in front of you.
yeah, definitely. So where can people find you on social media?
Well, I am on all the. I have my Nitro Green fan page on Facebook. As you mentioned, I wrestle for Bodyslam as well, where I'm a tag team guy. So I also have a fan page there called Ranas Pena, who is a very different gimmick and very different character than this. Uh, I'm not that big on Twitter, as that's still something that I need to take to me, but I'm on Instagram as well
Yeah,
under the Mickle TT. So that's where you can find me.
brilliant. And make sure you stay tuned for that. So we will be speaking to the other persona of Nitro Green, talking about his time in Body Slam. But make sure you go follow Dansk Pro Wrestling, CCW, Body Slam, everything that we've spoken about. Head over to Facebook, and hopefully Nitro will get himself on Twitter properly soon, so we can plug those Twitter socials as well.
I promise. I
Um,
promise.
but no, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Like, thank you for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed learning more about the Danish wrestling scene, especially from the early days.
Once again, thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. So if you've enjoyed that, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe so you're not going to miss out on any of the other interviews that I'm doing from around the world. And again, make sure you go follow Dansk Pro Wrestling. Make sure you go like Nitro Green's Facebook pages as well, and just give it a try. Allow yourself to have a look at different wrestling scenes from around the world. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.